Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review the season 5 finale of The Masked Singer. So, reasonably, I would honestly say that this episode actually was decent for a finale. Really, this episode wasn't exactly, it wasn't exactly groundbreaking. It wasn't exactly, it wasn't something that uh, I couldn't have saw coming technically. But really, I was also kind of thinking quite possibly, I was like, is Chameleon going to win this episode? Immediately, I was kind of going with this entire episode with basically asking myself, is Chameleon going to win this episode? Really, a lot of people would probably have said it's like, oh, that's because you like him the least, ba 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 ba. No, really, I almost was thinking, is this going to be the episode where Chameleon is going to win and shock everyone? But that may or may not have happened within this episode. Really, I will go into who last minute I had assumed were any number of these people. And then eventually I will be going into a reveal, and then I will be going through a season review of all of this and check all the boxes and whatever, what have you. But, anyways, really, I would say, honestly, I did like the introductional thing of this episode where we ended up having last year's. Uh, winner Leanne Rhymes came back and performed a song with the rest of the finale. I was also just like, you know what? Shouldn't they have how I think they should have milked something out a little bit more in this episode. I think reasonably. I was kind of confused where I was expecting there to be some kind of way to milk this show out more, but it just seems really that they paced it just perfectly to stretch this whole thing. Really, I was kind of expecting a bunch of the singers from seasons past to come back. I was expecting some kind of special performances or something, maybe from an all-star group of something, or maybe I was expecting eventually all of the winners to come back and perform something. But I guess we weren't to have gotten that kind of thing to go on for this season. Really, I thought that really this episode felt really milked out, and I was like, man, it's amazing how they really paced this episode to perfectly in line with how many people are left. But anyways, so uh overall, some good performances. Whoops. uh yeah, there was some just kind of for me, there was also, if I were to also say there were good performances, and uh, within this last episode, there were also some kind of disappointing things within this episode as well. I was kind of expecting certain things to just blow me away, and they didn't. I was expecting really to have the best choice song kind of win all, and kind of it was almost obvious. It was kind of obvious the way of which that this episode eventually trickled down to just be like, well, weirdly, I probably wouldn't have gone this direction, but I guess I'm going this direction in this episode just because I felt like I was forced into doing that. So, yeah. So this season was honestly a season overall would just be a season that I just still just didn't enjoy. I didn't like this season compared to all the others. Because really, I don't know, the song choices for bulk this season just were very, a lot of times, just either a lot of songs that were either safe or a lot of songs that weren't, again, the best performance of the show, the best performance of this season kind of thing. It's just like, oh well, great, he chose that song. Oh, that's great. Okay, let's get to the voting. Like that's how it felt like this season. It didn't feel, even though we would get it to where like a Nicole or a Jenny or whoever would cry during any number of times which anyone would sing. Jenny and Nicole cry all the time. Basically, and that's perfectly okay because that's who they are and that's perfectly fine. Like a song connects to them. But again, uh anything that happened within this episode wasn't like, oh man, I felt so moved by this song that I just like, I knew that this person was going to like, there's a reason why this person was in the finale. No, especially not in this episode. But anyways, so let's get into the choices, and let's get into the unmasking, and let's get into the recapping and so on and so forth. So, Chameleon, I still assessed was Wiz Khalifa for the longest time. Really, Robin Thicke had stayed with that guess, which was great. I think Nicole also stayed with that guess. I think really the two other judges went into two different directions. We're also going to have to mention who had gotten the golden ear by the end of this episode, which coincidentally is who he or she is within the end of this episode. So we'll talk about that when we get to a season recap. But yeah, I just assumed it was Wiz Khalifa. Never heard of one lick of much of a song of Wiz Khalifa's, with the exception of me watching a movie called that Fast and That Furious movie where that song was in there. And so yeah, evidently we end up having the Chameleon who had performed Gangster's Paradise, and I'm immediately in my head going like, man, that is such a cool song, of course, by Coolio. And like I was thinking in my head, I'm like, is Chameleon gonna win? Because really, like I actually did like this song. I actually did like Gangster's Paradise being used as a finale song. Uh, I really thought that I was like, you know what? If he does win, I think I will be fine with this, because the songs that kind of happened after that weren't really all that exciting, in all honesty. So, Chameleon, I assumed was Wiz Khalifa, and by the end of this episode, we will see who Chameleon is. So, moving on. So, we end up having the Black Swan, and I know I'm not usually, and I'm not in this episode, I'm not kind of going with the same old photos that I've been going with. I'm just kind of just like, hey, it's the finale. Like, just plop whatever picture on there, and just kind of just like, meh. Like, numerous times over and over again, I would consistently go with Vanessa Hudgens as the Black Swan. But really, in this last bit of thing, we end up having it to where Black Swan was to mention that she was on tour and that had to be haltered. And immediately I'm like, oh, okay, so this has to absolutely be a singing artist. And I don't think Vanessa Hudgens is haltering any world tours anytime soon. I think recently she's going to be doing more and more films. So immediately that took Vanessa Hudgens out of the running. And plus, I didn't really have anybody else that I think that I was guessing. Because more than likely, Robin Thicke made some guess, and I just naturally assumed, I'm like, you know what? Like, that just seems like a random guess from Robin Thicke. And so I ended up going with JoJo with this. Really, just because one, not all of this was 100% me, but then I eventually had to justify it later. Because, yeah, I had gotten help. I had gotten a commenter on one of these videos that actually did help me out through a through a bulk of these, especially 2 out of the last 3 of these. And then, of course, really we had it to where I was easily just thinking who could quite possibly big the Piglotto. But yeah, also, I think I'm gonna start doing a new rule for reasonably me doing a finale, but also me doing uh, me doing this show. One, I think I'm gonna try as much as humanly possible to get every single person correct, because a lot of times I haven't 100%ed a entire show. There have been 1 or 2 characters that had slipped under the cracks, and I want to try to get every single person, so that way I have a pretty good accuracy of who people are. A lot of times I make jokes. A lot of times I just I have no clue who this is. Absolutely, there's no way I can figure this out. And then I'm going on seasons with egg on my face because that happens and it's fun. Uh, but also in the finale, I only want to have one guess of a person. So yeah, in the finale, I do not want to still clutch on to more than one guess. I want to definitely cement and say that I only have one guess. If that ends up being wrong, and if a multiple guess thing could have had me be correct, like it would have to be one of those where it's just like a nail biter season where the last bit of something would get me to be correct for the whole entire season. Then the multiple guesses would come into play. But no, if I'm already doing well in a season anyways, I might as well just give one guess in the finale until there is a nail biting season where I'm just the numbers are down or whatever, which I'm assuming next season is going to be that. It's going to probably be so horrifically confusing that there's probably no way for me to be able to get a lot of characters right. And I hope that happens. I hope it gets severely difficult to where I'm just egg on my face every single bulk of this season. Because really, I've had a lot of good seasons. I've had a lot of good seasons and good guesses and whatever. So, with that said, here's also the thing. I honestly think the Masked Singer should do some kind of YouTube-ish thing to where they end up having the YouTube channel judges, where you end up having YouTubers that go on to the YouTube Masked Singer channel and guess who XYZ Masked Singers are, and then you have it to where the actual show covers that and mentions that, and from time to time you can possibly have them be a spotlight person, actually have your Masked Singer fans actually involved much more in the show. And I think that would be really just a really just fun thing. But really, I know a lot of people could probably rig that and probably probably figure out oh, well, so and so YouTuber is saying it's this, so I'm gonna say that too. But anyways, JoJo had given us a performance of How Am I Supposed to Live Without You? Which I immediately my first reaction is to say that this song is not a finale song to me. I really could not like this song at all. And immediately I was just God, Black Swan for the most of this season sounded such a strong character, but really towards the tail end of the season, every song choice does matter. To where, especially going from the last couple episodes that she was in, I was just man, she is just doing a lot of safe songs, or she is just doing a lot of songs that I immediately am just I don't care for this. And so immediately I was man, like Black Swan had so much promise, and then man, did we just really just deflate this bird, so to speak, into us just going like, man, this sucks. This sucks. Uh, Not of any fault of probably this Black Swan character, but yeah, it just was disappointing. This performance was just disappointing to me. Big thumbs down, but also a thumbs up because it's the finale. Who cares? Everybody's cashing their checks at the end of this show. So like, whether they win, whether they don't, whichever. Moving on. All right. So this should be the last pick, and then we're going to spoil who had gotten into third place, and we are going to unmask that person at the same time. So if you do not want to get spoiled after this point, go ahead and go onto Hulu and recap this entire show, or also you can go on to the YouTube Mass Singer channel and definitely go and check out that sweet, delicious footage that they have of pretty much either a lot of performances or interviews or whatever. But anyways, so let's get on to that Piglet man. He had performed a song called Faithfully by Journey, which I was like, you know what? Like, I could give or take this song, but you know what? I was like, you know what? Out of probably all three of these songs, besides maybe Gangster Paradise, which was actually a pretty cool song, Faithfully actually was a nice way to end this show. Was to end this character, because I think consistently Piglet has consistently done, for the most point, good song choices. Every single song, for the most point, that I've seen him do has kind of made me go, you know what? I can understand him getting this far. I can understand him probably winning people over. But I don't know. To me, like every single one of these performances were just disappointing. So it was just like I praise, but then I also pull back. Because really, I still have that like man, so many seasons were so much better before all this, and I'm just going in like saying like man, like we need some really good song choices makes or breaks everything. But on top of that, uh song choices and just really just something that's going to wow people, instead of just going like, oh, okay, well, here we go again, here's just a like another season of just like, I think it was cool. There was a lot of times where the Masked Singer would actually surprise people, where it was like, oh my god, yeah, I know this celebrity, but I didn't realize they could sing. Like Rumor Willis, like a lot of people probably did not know she not only sings, but sings amazingly well. I know full well that Rumor Willis could sing because I've seen movies where she had sang in them. I have seen Rumor Willis doing stuff on Broadway and stuff like that, little clips and footages and stuff like that, to where I was like, heck yeah, like I was so surprised that Rumor Willis was on this show at some point. But I didn't think it was going to be Rumor Willis. I thought it was some powerhouse like woman, because Rumor Willis sounded amazing. So going into this, the Piglet, I had consistently said for this whole entire season, every single time I see the Piglet man, immediately I naturally assumed that this would be Nick Lachey. Plus, also, I have actual legitimate proof of a photo which really just showcases exactly where a Clue reference is from. So yeah, really cementing still full well that this Piglet man is that Nick Lachey dude. Uh, Really, it is kind of interesting because it seemed that Jenny McCarthy's first impression of the Piglet was actually Nick Lachey. And we end up having it to where it seems that we'll find out by the end of the show if not only I was correct, but if Jenny was correct. So let's go into the coveted double five time territory because really it is about that time to go into unmasking every single one of these folks from third place up into second and first. So what we're going to do is we're going to show third place and unmask that person, and so second and first will have a photo together. So you'll kind of see both of who they are together. So that'll showcase everyone. So now it's about that time. Let's go into spoilers, spoiler time, and spoiler time. So, yeah, check this out on Hulu, check this out on YouTube, but let's go into who the third place person was. This third place person was the Chameleon. So I am going to unmask the Chameleon right now. The Chameleon was none other than Wiz Khalifa. I apologize, I don't have the name and also the accolades down on the bottom. I just had to find a photo, and this was the easiest one to get. So, yeah, because doing this again while the show is to go on isn't the easiest thing. But, anyways, and plus, like, it's basically like hours after and whatever. So, Wiz Khalifa actually kind of almost was one of those where I was like, man, is he gonna win? He's gonna win this show. He's gonna win it. Believe me, he's gonna win this show. Like everyone's gonna get shocked and surprised that he is going to win this show, and then he ended up doing third. I'm like, whoa. I thought like there was gonna be some shock and awe this season, but instead it seems like Chameleon, who is Wiz Khalifa, had gotten third. And I was like, wow, like Wiz actually was like pretty good towards the tail end there. Really just kind of, especially with the Gangster's Paradise, which I'm like, you know what? That was actually a good choice. That was a good choice to end the show for Chameleon. But yeah, so we are surprised. I am surprised about me getting yet another character correct. Really, it all came down to me just eventually getting told who this person was, and then I had to figure out how to come up with a reasoning for why this person does actually fit in my own way. But anyways, I think it's about that time to now spoil who second and first place was. So since we're doing these simultaneously, because really people would immediately think, well, it's either Black Swan or it's Piglet because there's only two left. So I'm going to let everybody know that Black Swan had taken second and Piglet ended up winning this season. So recently I was kind of almost surprised because I thought maybe a lot of people might have had Black Swan win just because overall performance through a lot of other songs. But then again, I was also like, well, Piglet has been consistent, has been consistently doing well. So now it's about that time to go into spoilers about both of who these two people are en masse. So again, let's go into spoilers of who these people are right now. So, the Black Swan was none other than JoJo, and of course, the Piglet was of course Nick Lachey. Funny enough, I just happened to click at a certain point where we have Nick Lachey who is licking his own name. I didn't go out of my way to try to pause or whatever that photo. It just coincidentally happened that way. And a lot of people are like, sure, yeah, it did. Yeah, well, it was coincidence that he was licking his own name. More than likely, I wonder if that was a purposeful thing. Because more than likely, he knew exactly where the camera was going to be and exactly where the thing was going to be, and so on and so forth. More than likely. But, anyways, so yeah, really, I actually thought that Nick Lachey really was actually really good this season. The Foo Fighters song "Pretender" I think was probably his uh, most favorite performance of me this season. I honestly think JoJo probably had like some kind of good songs here and there. Really like her renditions of songs, her way of doing things differently was kind of fun. But yeah, so really we have it to where uh, a pretty good way to just end things. I guess probably a lot of people probably felt good after this show was over. Maybe in a good way, I guess. But yeah, so really we have it to where reasonably, yeah, Jojo and Nick Lachey, correct. So that is great. So let's get into a season recapping. So now we end up finding out that it seems that Jenny McCarthy had gotten the golden ear for 2 seasons in a row, but then again, could not guess her husband, and I guess they have to continue to throw that in her face. But that's completely okay because at the end of the day, she's still the much better guesser than maybe a lot of other people on the show. So going into this, yeah, this is yet another winning season, but again, I could not have completely done this all by myself. But also, like, reasonably also, there was a lot of times where, like, this, uh, this season I think was a lot of fun to figure things out just via, like, hearing someone's voice. I think Robopine was one of those where it was kind of like severely difficult to figure that out until eventually we got further and further down the line of episodes where I'm like, you know what, it's got to be Tyrese. Like it's got to be like justifiably like the sound of which that he sounds and whatever. Uh, but yeah, this season was probably not as good as other seasons, but like it was just kind of fun to keep doing this show, and also fun to eventually somewhere down the line be right, correct, whatever. To have certain uh, to have certain people on this show that I think were really fun, like the Russian dolls with Hanson, like those characters were so much fun, and I kind of would have hoped that they would have gone into the finale, but sadly they didn't. Uh, but yeah, other than that, another winning season under the belts. Really, eventually, uh, sadly, and I honestly should maybe do like a season one recapping or a season one kind of something. Like, I should try to figure out how I can just kind of cover season one. Maybe when there isn't a Mass Singer season going on. Maybe I'll try to recover season one, and because it's been a while since I've watched the show. Um, but also maybe I'll have to recap it into like, well, when I watched this show originally, did I get this person right or not? And maybe I might do that just for fun, just so I can cover season one. because there might be somebody that still watches The Masked Singer season one because they've never heard of this show until now. So yeah, and maybe they wanted to start from season one and work their way up and guess this and whatever. Like any number of people could catch this show in any number of ways. So, but yeah, another winning season under the belt for sure. Going through this, uh, really, there's a lot of times where there is a lot of odd, random guessing, which just bizarrely works out. I know a lot of people could really just have it be that it's like, oh no, you rigged this, you whatever, you figure you like. There's no way that someone could humanly get this correct as often as I could. Um, but reasonably, it's not rigging. It's not like really. Uh, it's really just random knowledge that I pull from my brain that a lot of people just don't have, sadly, or whatever. And like that doesn't happen all the time. But I don't know. It's just like I'm not boasting. I'm not saying that I'm just smarter than anybody else. Like I just have useless knowledge that at the end of the day just has me in a good spot on this show. I know a lot about pop culture. I've seen a lot of films. I've watched a lot of movies. I've watched a lot of shows. I have watched or listened to quite a bit of music that is like all kinds of random kind of music. So that works in my kind of favor. But yeah, so I'm gonna get out of here. I don't know how long I've even talked for this for. 31 minutes. Yeah, that tells me I need to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.